I feel like in the church, it is one of the most difficult places to keep and hold boundaries because we're doing the Lord's work, but at the same time...
It's so important.
Yeah, it's important, but at the same time, our ministry to ourselves and to our families is just maligned when we put other things before, like we have a wrong hierarchy of all the things in our life.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Staircase to Nowhere, your premier ministry and culture podcast. Today we are having a conversation about boundaries. Boundaries are a difficult question for anyone in ministry. How do I serve sacrificially like Jesus without neglecting my family or my health? Where do we draw the line when ministry really isn't a 9 to 5? We share some of our experiences in residential ministry, church planting, and solo pastoring, attempting to offer some practical thoughts on how to serve others without hurting yourself. If you'd like to interact with us, if you have questions or feedback or ideas for future episodes, whatever, you can send us an email at staircasepod@gmail.com. That link will be below in the show notes. Or you can hit the little reply button if you're listening on Spotify. Either way, whether you talk to us or you don't, we're glad you're here. We hope that this conversation encourages you. Maybe it gives you some tools for your own life to set good and healthy boundaries that honor the Lord. Well, hope you enjoy this episode, and I will stop talking so I can start talking soon. Thanks.
Hello and welcome to Staircase to Nowhere. We are so glad that you turned on this podcast, that you didn't set a boundary about us and say, I need some space. I can't handle those guys in my life right now.
Handle those boys.
It's just a lot. And they just made me rethink the sacraments last week. And I can't handle it anymore. But we're so excited to have you on today. My name is Noah, and I am a seminary student in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, Noah. Good to meet you.
Hey, David.
I'm David.
Oh,
I
introduced you.
A seminary graduate in Upland, Indiana. And I also work for a school, and I work at a church. And I have a dog and a wife. And I have 2 friends that I record a podcast with on a semi-regular basis.
Oh my gosh. ChatGPT, write me a bio for David Neal.
Actually, that would be helpful, I think. That would help you, buddy.
I am David Neal. I do these things, and I have these responsibilities. That was beautiful. It was full sentences this week.
Yeah, I thought it was a big improvement over last week. Full, yeah. There was a noun, a verb, an adjective, all of those.
That was great. Yeah, in like 3 episodes, you will be on fire. Insane.
You'll open up the dissertation you've written about yourself and begin, as a young boy in Upland, Indiana.
Guys, the amount of conversations I have to have on a daily basis, I'm surprised I have words by the time we get to this podcast.
It's you, though. It's you. I mean, come on.
Oh, who's this other guy on this podcast?
Noah, David, I'm Sam. Great to meet you, fellas.
Hey, Sam.
Glad to be here.
Shmam.
I'm the director of street and community outreach for some stuff here in Louisville, Kentucky, doing homeless outreach.
Why do the streets need outreached? Don't the people on the streets need the outreach?
Yeah, we're reworking some of our strategies. We've learned that the pavement is fine on its own.
Are you telling us you work for the highway department? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's I do street outreach. I'm a crossing guard.
Why is it taking this long to make this joke?
Yeah. Man, God is redeeming the whole creation. He wants us to proclaim to the streets the gospel.
Hallelujah to the streets.
Wait, here's my opening question. What's your guys' favorite medium for a street? Like, you like cobblestone, you brick? What do you guys like?
Oh.
How do I want my streets to be?
Yeah, what's your favorite medium of a street?
I want a nice, just smooth, fresh asphalt when it's still nice and dark and black, and you can't tell it's just seashells. I want
seashells?
Your roads aren't made of seashells?
Dude, it's a Florida thing.
Okay.
You wouldn't get it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a rich Florida thing.
Yeah, sounds like Boca Raton or something to me.
Probably.
I think I've put zero thought into my preference of street, but
Okay, director of street outreach.
Oh,
I never
he
said
got
I
you
was
with
good.
that.
Yeah, I don't know. The road in front of our house, or the main road in front of our house, just got repaved, and that was really nice. So it was a real surprise. We woke up, and it's a 4-way street, and a quarter of it was tore up, and then the next day it was patched with the new they had paved it, and they did that in 4 sequences. So over a week, it'd be one section tore up, fixed. One section tore up, fixed. So every day or every other day, we got a new part of our street.
That's so efficient.
Yeah, it was great. There's a lot of things the city doesn't do well, but we were like, nice work, guys. Well done.
Hey, they did something.
Yeah. Hooray.
Speaking of doing something and reaching out to people, have we gotten any fan interaction?
Yes. Okay. So the emails just keep coming in, and we would love to just keep reading them on the air.
And
So-
Emails are coming in.
plural, right? That means we've had 2 emails, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they
They're
keep
coming
coming
in by the twos.
one at a time, and we are happy to read our emails to you. And if you'd like to reach out to the pod, it's staircasepod@gmail.com, staircasepod@gmail.com. So this one is from a young man named Jordan.
Hey, Jordan.
And he
Shout out,
says-
Jordan.
Hey,
Woo.
what's up? He says, hello, former Broho members, theologians, hall directors, and those I have never met.
That's me.
It has come to my attention that your inbox for this podcast may be a bit dry. Why? Who's been saying this? Who's been saying things?
Our cup runneth over, Jordan.
Being that I am an ardent listener through Google Podcasts. Oh, here's who
We
listens to
found the
Google
one.
Podcasts.
That's the guy.
I'm glad he told us the platform. Please, when you send your email, let us know what platform you use to prove to Sam people do like Apple Podcasts. Thank you.
I don't believe it.
Back to Jordan. I wanted to spice up your day by choosing to respond. Firstly, may I congratulate you on producing such quality content?
Sam.
I usually imagine myself listening to the podcast amongst hundreds of others because it is produced so well.
How silly.
Also, hundreds is not really a successful podcast either.
Dude, dozens is a successful podcast.
Yeah, I
in
would
my
say
book.
the fact that we've gotten a non-family member to email us.
That's true. That's true. Imagine the shock I feel when I walk down 2 flights of stairs and then hear the voice of one of your co-hosts booming throughout.
Booming,
It
David.
truly is shocking to be living in a world of infinitesimal proportions. What? My favorite episode thus far has to be Why Can't We Be Friends? Well, I appreciate him letting us know his favorite. I definitely need to go back and re-listen to it as I feel there were a lot of challenging ideas brought to mind. Ooh, I wonder what we said. I recently listened to your baptism and communion episodes, and having a baptism service and a communion service at my church back-to-back weeks gave me the opportunity to think more deeply about this. In response to both, I think I can find more grounds in having communion all times, especially when we are meeting together as one Christian mind. However, I am more hesitant to the idea of baptism. I've seen many people, especially in my college years, be baptized by those who are not pastors. And I wrestle with that as I don't feel they have an automatic passage to discipleship afterwards. Ooh, some interesting thoughts there.
Heyo.
Here are some future topic ideas. Theology and aliens. What happens if there is extraterrestrial life? Please do an episode about the difference between...
All of us just looked at each other like, what do we do?
There was... That pause was us looking at each other, but anyway. Also, Jordan says, please do an episode about the difference between communal and individual spiritual living. When is each appropriate, and should we lean towards one more than the other?
Jordan, you've read Life Together by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. You know the answer to that question.
I hope you have been stimulated by this message.
Very.
Deepest regards, Jordan, a Taylor Broho guy.
Wow.
I'll bleep out his last name.
Oh, So sorry.
It's okay. It'll be bleeped right here. When we go back, it'll have a bleep.
You should keep that in. That you say you bleeped it out.
No, I'll know. Yeah, keep
this in there. Yeah, keep this in there.
Oh yeah. This conversation we're having right now will be in the
You're
podcast.
listening to us say this live.
You are listening to it.
We're just editing live. Jordan, I just want to thank you so much for this response. I also just want to kind of respond to the baptism communion part. I think it's interesting what you were saying, that seeing people baptized by those who are not pastors feels like the issue to you, and that if they're not baptized by a pastor, they don't have a passage to discipleship. And what I would question you there is it only for pastors to disciple people? And I think that it's pretty clear throughout the Bible that it's the role of every believer to make disciples. That's Jesus' call to us. And so it does seem like in the Great Commission that there is something about whoever is discipling a new believer to baptize them. But I think kind of what you're getting at is when they're not a pastor, are you concerned that they're not being baptized into the church? And that is what I would say doesn't make sense. You can't be baptized on your own, not into the church. But I think that it is probably okay for someone to be baptized not by a pastor, especially if that person is discipling them and is walking with them through it.
I'm going to assume also maybe it has something more to do with the concept of a spiritual authority, right? Like maybe not the word pastor, but like having someone who's not a spiritual authority baptize you. That could be where I could see him coming from. I also know Jordan comes from the same theological background that I do, and so I see where he's talking as well, because both of our dads are Methodist pastors. So I definitely understand his question there. And that's something that you're going to have to work out, Jordan. But all that to say, I think we should write up an email response brought to you by Artificial Intelligence.
Brought to you by Artificial Intelligence.
So
everyone's favorite part of the podcast.
What do you want the prompt to be? Like what I did last time was write a response from our Christian podcast producers to this email. Should we do something else?
No, yeah. And do that again. We should read bits of it, but let's not read all of it, because some of it's special for Jordan.
I've learned, I really like the idea of telling ChatGPT to include quotes from specific thinkers in the response. So I think that's how you start it, and then add the phrase like with a quote from like
from Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
From Dietrich Bonhoeffer, but then something like from like Bob Hope or something like that.
Yes. And for all of those of you listening along, this is the standard practice for us responding to emails. They're pretty heartfelt and pretty lengthy. Well thought out, just not by us, by large language models crawling the internet for information and generating the next best word in a sequence of letters and paragraphs. So it sounds great, but it's deeply impersonal.
Oh, man. No, it's very personal. Oh, this is going to be great. I love it already. All right, here we go. Subject regarding your podcast, your message and podcast suggestions. Dear Jordan, greetings in the name of our Lord.
Yes.
Amen.
Why is ChatGPT doing this?
Because we're Christians.
We were truly delighted to receive your thoughtful and engaging email. Thank you so much for your kind words regarding our podcast content. As Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said, the test of the morality of a society is what it does for its children.
I think he said that. It was him or Dr. Seuss. One of those two. Yeah.
We're humbled by your appreciation and thrilled that you found value in our discussions. It's quite amusing to hear about your surprise when you recognize one of our co-hosts' voices in everyday life. It reminds us that our listeners are part of our extended Christian community, even outside the digital realm. We're delighted to hear that Why Can't We Be Friends resonated with you. It was indeed a challenging topic, and we encourage you to revisit it if you feel there were ideas you'd like to explore further. Please. As Bob Hope once quipped, I have seen what a laugh can do. It can transform almost unbearable tears into something bearable even hopeful.
Did Bob Hope actually say that? What?
Who cares?
No.
Your suggested topics are fascinating, and we'll definitely take them into consideration for future episodes. Theology and aliens is a thought-provoking idea, exploring how Christianity might respond to the discovery of extraterrestrial life. As Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said, the ultimate test of a moral society is the kind of world that it leaves to its children. That is like the same Bonhoeffer quote they gave earlier, just worded differently.
You didn't specify. You didn't want more than one. You said quote Bonhoeffer a lot. The same thing.
And then in the same paragraph, Bob Hope humorously remarked, I have seen what a laugh can do.
No.
It can
that's
transform
beautiful.
almost unbearable tears into something bearable, even hopeful.
Oh, that's beautiful. Jordan,
You're welcome.
thank you. And you're welcome.
Guys,
Maybe
there's
we
one
should
more
have Jordan on an
Bonhoeffer
episode.
quote in this. There's one more Bonhoeffer quote.
Oh.
You guys have to know. Your message has indeed stimulated us. As Dietrich Bonhoeffer wisely stated, the best way to predict your future is to create it.
I don't think he said that.
There's no
That doesn't
way.
sound like him.
Where's Michael? Call Michael right now. Ask him if Bonhoeffer said that.
Michael would know.
Michael would know.
You should text him.
I'm
ask
going to
him.
go out on a limb and say Bonhoeffer was not into manifesting.
For the children.
Good vibes,
Yeah, for the
man.
kids.
Good vibes.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's me, David, and I'm here to tell you guys about our subject today, which is
Is this an ad for BetterHelp? This really
causing
sounds
Sam
like it.
to regret everything. Today we're talking about BetterHelp called Boundaries.
Oh my gosh. My little director's note a second ago was, all right, somebody set up the segment. And this is how we got here. This was good. This was good.
Boundaries.
Yeah, we're not talking about BetterHelp. We're trying to talk about boundaries, and specifically boundaries in ministry. Not, well, I guess we could talk about boundaries and other things, but
No time.
Yeah, Noah's shaking his head. We have no right to speak on those things. Barely any right to speak on these things. But guys, why did this conversation come up for us, and why do we feel like it's important to talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, we are young leaders, and we have not really been in ministry that long, you know, to be honest. And yet all of us have experienced some really difficult seasons in ministry that felt overwhelming, felt taxing, felt like, oh my gosh, how do I keep doing this? We've all had moments of like, I don't know if I even want to do this anymore. And talking to other young Christian leaders, I know that that's a pretty common theme. And there's lots of talk about what does it mean to have boundaries? What does it mean to take care of yourself? When also we're called to sacrifice and to give our lives for the cause of Christ and the sake of the gospel. And it can feel really easy to say, it's for Jesus, so let me, do a little bit more. Or this is so important, so I have to. Or if I don't do it, who will? And that's definitely gotten me into some pretty dark places of being overexerted and not handling things well. And so, yeah, we just wanted to ask some questions here about each other's experiences and hopefully build some staircase somewhere for like how to have fruitful, healthy ministries in which we serve people well and we honor the Lord.
Solid setup. Nice.
Great, much better job than me.
No, that was to both of you. Yeah.
I'm really excited for this episode because to me, I think this is going to be the one that will be a lifelong struggle, especially for me. I don't know about you guys. Creating healthy work and emotional boundaries with people. When I was thinking, preparing for this episode, I was thinking about my childhood, and I'm a third generation pastor. And my dad would tell stories about how his dad, so my grandpa, had next to no boundaries. So he was a church planter in Hartford City. Shout out Blackford County. And
woo, they're listening.
All our
on
Blackford
Google
County
Podcasts.
On Google Podcasts. And he moved his family from McAllen, Texas to Hartford City because he felt like God was telling him to plant a church there back in the early 60s, late 50s. So he moves to Hartford, and he was your textbook entrepreneurial pastor, right? Like he started a church coffee shop back in the 60s, right?
Before it was cool.
Right.
When Folgers was cool.
Right? And he would have these, he had a radio program in his basement and started a radio station.
Oh, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, honestly. But he was the kind of guy, like, everyone in Hartford City knew him. He loved people well, cared for people well connected. But the story my dad would tell a lot is, like, they'd be sitting down eating dinner. They had made some dinner, and there was 5 of them. And someone would knock on the door and say, Reverend Neil, I haven't had anything to eat today. And my grandpa would go and grab my dad's dinner and give it to this man asking for food. And he tells stories like that, like a lot of times like that, where he was, some could say he was doing good things, right? Like feeding the hungry, but then at the same time he is hurting his own children, right? Like, and I think that's a really good case study of how pastors do need to have boundaries. Like, we're called to love our neighbor and to care for the needy, but one of our first responsibilities is our family. And so my dad, having experienced that, wanted to stop that. And so when I was growing up, we had household rule, no answering the phone during dinner. Right? So we would sit down at dinner, and you couldn't get up to answer the door, you couldn't get up to answer the phone. We sat there and had dinner together. And I think that was a very conscientious move on his part to say, there's a lot of things that are happening and emergencies and hard things, but 99% of the time, this is going to be more important. And I think that was a really good model for me. I do see it in myself to be more like my grandpa, though, than my dad. So I was learning today about this thing where it was talking about how, like, certain traits and fears and stuff are passed from one generation to the next. Do you know what that's called?
Genogram.
Yes. What? No,
it's like a chart where you can map your family, and you can see like different things that have happened over the generations, and you start to see trends. Yes, basically.
And I think that I feel myself being more like my grandpa in the sense of, like, well, I have, like, the church is crucial, right? Like, I'm serving God, and when we view it as serving God, which it is, we can quickly lose our boundaries and begin to go places we shouldn't. And so that's why I have been reading the book Boundaries by one Dr. John Townsend and Henry Cloud. And he's a doctor too.
Doctors.
And Boundaries is a pretty classic book on how to have boundaries, and it talks about areas where we have a hard time with boundaries. And I feel like in the church, it is one of the most difficult places to keep and hold boundaries, because we're doing the Lord's work, but at the same time...
It's so important.
Yeah, it's important. But at the same time, our ministry to ourselves and to our families is just maligned when we put other things before, like, we have a wrong hierarchy of all the things in our life. So, I'm excited for this conversation because it is something I think I'm going to have to work on for the next, 70 years? I don't know how long I'm going to live.
Oh, wow, that'd be great to have you that long, buddy.
I don't want to live that long. Maybe the next 50 years.
So Rich Velotis is pastor of New Life Fellowship in Queens, which the former pastor there was Pete Scazzaro. He wrote Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. Like, they talk all the time about this importance of like spiritual, emotional health, especially as Christian leaders. And one of his quotes is, "The best thing you can offer the world is your ongoing transformation in Jesus." And it's so interesting, like, as Christian leaders, we deprioritize our ongoing transformation in Jesus. We deprioritize abiding in Christ. We deprioritize prayer, reading the scriptures, habits that are good for us in our life, because we want to be selfless. We want to put the needs of others first, and we want to care and sacrifice and love. But when we neglect our ongoing transformation in Jesus, we suddenly have less and less and less to offer others.
Well, let's can we try this a little bit? Let's let the people get to know us a little bit. Let's crack ourselves open a bit. Just
That's
good
what I sound like when I
effects.
crack open.
That was really good. And
Wait,
he
this is what
says
Noah-
crack ourselves open.
This is what Noah sounds like. Ahooga.
And Sam sounds like, ew.
Nice. Yeah. I guess just I was kind of thinking, like, going around maybe talking about seasons in ministry where boundaries were particularly difficult for you and why. Like, maybe what context were you in? Like, lessons. We can get into lessons learned, but maybe just even share a little bit about our own experiences a little more in depth and where we've been, just kind of where we've come from. What would you guys say are some seasons that have their, particular set of challenges when it comes to setting boundaries in ministry? Noah, I thought of you and just like, I feel like working in a church plant is its own, like, has its own categories of like difficulties and stuff. Could you speak to name some of the things that are hard about, setting boundaries in a church plant and what makes that difficult?
Yeah. Church planting, like, teams are always small and always strapped for everything, for time, for resources, for mature leaders, so like the needs in a church plant are very generalized, in the sense that if you work in a church with like a big staff, you have someone who does maintenance, you have someone who cleans. But if you work in like a church plant, I mean, number one, you work there. That's amazing that you work there. There's like usually one or two staff jobs there, and you need to be the maintenance person for the building if you have one. You need to fundraise and share the story with outside people, because often your church community is not going to be financially self-sustaining yet. You want to be in the community and meeting new people and making new disciples, sharing the gospel with the lost, because you don't want a church plant to be only transfers, people like leaving their churches because your church is cooler. Like, that's not the goal of planting new churches. Like, we need to be meeting new people and sharing the gospel. But then there's also kind of like all the systems things that have been in place in established churches for so long but aren't in a church plant. You need to start fresh. Like, what are your systems for your financial stewardship? What are your systems for like how we make decisions in the church? What are your systems for our volunteers?
I'm getting overwhelmed just like hearing you talk about it. Like, you've ranged the spectrum. I remember talking to you when you were like, I have to go change toilet seats out. Like, you ordered toilet seats for your building or something. Like, and then also having to go through your having to manage the church budget and your HR policies. And like, there's just an incredible spectrum of responsibilities.
And then someone in the community dies.
Yeah.
And it's like, and we are mourning, and we are doing a funeral, and we are like caring for people, and it's like there is kind of the never-ending, and I think most churches can speak to this as well, but I think that with church planting especially, like when you have a lot of like younger and baby believers, like you don't necessarily have those like mature people that also kind of bear the load.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to fall back on. Like, if you like, because I can get into mine later, but when I worked at a church, I was it wasn't a plant. It was a lot more established. It had been around for a long time. So as things wax and wane, like if there's, you just have more of a cushion, or there's like more like there's systems and even money, and there's like stuff you can fall back on. But as a church plant, like, I mean, very entrepreneurial, like very like kind of if you don't make it happen, it's not going to happen. Like, and it can, especially a church in its infancy can really, like, if you're not making the moves, making the connections in the community, it can feel like if you're not doing the thing, then you might not have a church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think of the church you served at, Sam. Like, there were lay leaders there that had been there for however many years, and they were going to be there no matter what happened.
They're still there. Yeah.
Exactly. They're still there. The pastors have changed out. The staff have changed out.
Crazy.
But like those members are consistent.
Yeah.
And I think that with the church plant, it like feels a little more tenuous because it's like these people weren't together 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And like if we don't figure this out, they won't be. And there's all these like the rates of like how many church plants survive in 10 years, and it's just it's really hard. And David, you're living in your workplace right now.
Yeah.
You have the added thing of being in residential ministry, where you have how many 300 students living in your building,
Yeah. So
and they can knock on your door at any time. What do you do?
Tried during this recording, basically.
yeah, you probably heard Judah barking in the background. Yeah, I mean, my 8 years of ministry, it's always been a battle for me to have good boundaries. But this is, I mean, no doubt the most difficult time to create. I don't want to say a barrier, man. I got some work to do when it comes to boundaries, because I'm like, I don't want to say a barrier. I'm like, okay, you got like, I'm like self-counseling myself right now.
Yeah. Well, you're hitting on the tension of it. Like you're hitting on the like
true.
it's not so binary, and there's times where it's supposed to bend, but also like not always. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean that's a conversation in and of itself. Is the temptation for me in stress is to turn it to binary, right? Like anytime something is confusing or hard or difficult, I turn to yes or no, black and white. But we live in a gray world, and so yeah, it's honestly this is probably the hardest podcast episode yet, just because my temptation is to like I think of at the end of Schindler's List, when all the Jews are being freed, Schindler's like, this watch I was wearing, right? Like, this could have saved like 3 Jews. And this car that I have, if I sold it, I could have saved 25 Jews. And I think I'm at that place where I'm like, well, I could be at home with Caitlin, but there's a guy out there who's probably struggling with anxiety or depression or whatever, and I could be helping him. Well, if I'm out going for a walk right now, maybe I'll see someone and be able to help them. And so this temptation of like, am I doing enough? Which to me shows I'm putting too much weight on myself, right? Like that's where I have to remember it's only through the Spirit, only through the Holy Spirit that we can even do ministry. And so to say that I have to be present is limiting the power of the Spirit. So yeah, this is not a fun episode for me.
This is a hard context for you, David. And you've got listeners that live in your
yeah,
and
Jordan, do
them.
not knock on my door.
Yeah, you got folks that are like, how do we not bother David?
Because so like, okay, so Caitlin and I have decided we bought a larger meal plan so that we could eat our meals with the students, right? We're like, okay, this is an easy time where we can choose to be interrupted, right? Like we want to choose to be interrupted, but then like we're trying to do pretty good at protecting our weekends. Like Saturday, I didn't answer texts from people on Saturday. Right?
That's
like
good.
preserving our weekends has been helpful, and Sundays too. Like if we're not on campus, you can't contact. And I tell them like, hey guys, I'm leaving, and that's where I think the boundary does come into play. Like I texted all my leaders like, hey, I'm not going to be here this weekend. Here's this emergency contact. Here's who you go to, and this. I can't help you, but I do care about you. And I think that really is going to be the only way forward, right? Like, like we choose to invest as much as we can when we can, but in other times we have to choose to close the door, metaphorically.
Yeah, I like what you said there because you communicated your boundary to them. You said, I'm not available, and here's who you go to when you need somebody. You know, and that demonstrates care and concern. It's not, I'm abandoning you, you know, but it's, I can't do this for you. Mm-hmm. And here's who can. That takes some preparation. But you really hit on something good there that, like, when we think that we are indispensable, you know, and like we have to recognize that it's God's work, it's God's church, it's God's people. You know, it's God's world. The lost out there is his mission. You know, he is in control of all these things, right. And we are a part of it. It's amazing to get to participate in this, but we are truly insignificant in the grand scheme. And to believe that we're not is arrogant. Mm-hmm. And it's unhelpful for us. It puts us in the place of God. And the practice that reminds us that we're not God, and when we stop, he still works, is the Sabbath. That the Sabbath has always been this day to stop work, to remind ourselves that God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh he rested, you know, and that he brought Israel out of Egypt, so they're not slaves anymore. Mm-hmm. So like God created us for this relationship with him to enjoy, and he created us not to be slaves and not to have to work. We're not indispensable. We're valuable. Yeah. But our work is not what's valuable. It's just the way that God made us is so valuable. And I think that's often hard, especially for ministers, because there's a reason we got into this. We love it. Yeah. We love serving people. We love feeling useful and needed and seeing the impact and seeing the change. And like, I don't know, we just need to come back to that right place of this is God's work and these are God's people.
Where have you guys seen some examples of people in ministry with solid boundaries? Can you think of anyone or stories you've seen with like, oh yeah, I loved it when I saw so-and-so did this?
I almost feel like you guys could just be like, you're wrong about this. But it almost feels like there's a recalibration that happens every generation as the world changes, and as like, in some senses, like, you know, your grandfather, you know, David, like those were probably more, those boundaries were like, maybe we'd categorize them as unhealthy. Like, you know, maybe a little too far. Like maybe he didn't set enough boundaries. But I also think like our boundaries look different today, just like with the, you know, thinking about just how accessible we are with our phones and with technology, you know, thinking about the guy that knocked on your grandfather's door asking for dinner. Like there wasn't a way to message him and ask him, does the church have any room for me to eat something? Like, you know, the boundary is just different. Like the avenue to get a hold of your grandfather was to knock on the door. And now how you get a hold of somebody is you text them, or you call them, or you DM. Like, it's just the dynamics have changed some. So in some ways, like I feel like the goalposts are always moving, and like it's hard to. I don't know. Like nobody's had to minister in the specific world that we're ministering in right now before. You know, we are in a brand new context, and things are changing so fast. Like if I asked my grandpa, how did you deal with, you know, all the pressures of social media and, you know, constantly having a phone where, you know, your church, your congregants can always get a hold of you, he'd be like, oh, I don't know. Like I never had to deal with that. So in some ways we're having to figure some stuff out for the first time. And I think just acknowledging that some of these things that we are facing are new, not all of them. And there's principles that do translate, but acknowledging that it is a new time and a new space that we're having to navigate. All that to say, I do have people that I've really looked up to. I don't know if I've had anybody that I've really been like, you've just modeled rest really well and you've modeled taking care of yourself well. Noah and I grew up in the same church, and I just think the spirit was very much like go, 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 and go until, I don't know, like go and I don't even know when you stop. It's just like that. And even if that wasn't meant to be, that's what I picked up on. And I kind of carried that mentality for when I went into student ministry. I went hard, and I lived in a parsonage, and I was like on campus. I was very accessible. And if I'd kept going at the rate I was going, I would have burnt out. Like, and I don't use that term lightly. So I don't know if I was given growing up, I don't think I was given the best tools to know how to Sabbath and know how to stop and know how to say God's work is going to get done without you, with or without you. And you need to be able to know your limits and know your calling and be able to trust that your calling is good enough or whatever. So somebody interrupt me now because I'm done talking.
Yeah, I got to do this online course with Rich Velotis and New Life Fellowship, and I just found that like the time that I spent with him, he had such like an unanxious presence. He has this large platform online, but he was so real and relational and down to earth, you know, and the focus of the staff at his church is like, how do we, like rule of life stuff, like how do we live godly, healthy Christian lives even before we serve anybody, you know? And that was kind of the stuff that they taught us, like to be deeply formed and considering like, some major important things. Like, we talked about, our families. We talked about interior examination of our own hearts, our own minds. We talked about sexuality and race, and we talked about mission. And so just kind of like all these big things for us to do, but also like things for us to look like under the surface and under the iceberg. And yeah, that stuff that I've read from like The Emotionally Healthy Leader, Rich Velotis, The Deeply Formed Life, like those were really helpful books and kind of like, I don't know, setting my my understanding of these things. Can't say that I know how to do it either. But one of the books that we read for that course that just was truly life-changing was called Managing Leadership Anxiety by Steve Cuss. Yes. His website is Steve Cuss Words. And
got him.
And
perfect.
Basically, he was talking about burnout and exhaustion, and he postulates that most of the burnout today doesn't come from overwork. It actually is coming from anxiety. And that was definitely what I experienced. Like, maybe it wasn't necessarily that the work was too much. It's that when I went home, I was still freaking out about it. Yeah. You know? And that I was always kind of like feeling like I wasn't doing enough and feeling like that shame of like, I need to do more. And basically he like talked about being able to kind of recognize when you start to feel sped up, like know what it feels like to be anxious, firstly. And then when you feel yourself getting anxious, ask yourself, what do I think I need right now that I don't actually need? And he was saying that anxiety is stemming from false needs. So you think you need to control this situation. You think you need to control their response to you. You think you need to make everything better, but actually you don't need to make everything better. And if you can just release that, suddenly you don't feel as anxious about it anymore. So he like had a list in that book of like kind of what the false needs were. And really helpful just to kind of like ask myself, like, am I feeling this false need right now? So the two biggest ones for me are control and approval. And like starting to feel anxious when I feel the false need to be approved. When the gospel actually says that Jesus has already approved you and that the cross is enough for you. And so he talked about like, notice you feel anxious, ask that question, what's the false need here? And then what does the gospel say about that? So he had us do this little exercise where we wrote down like our inner critic and then put the gospel of Jesus next to it. So some of mine were like, never good enough, work harder. But the gospel says Jesus did enough, so I can rest. I don't have to get it exactly right. I just need to do my best. Or the inner critic said, what if everyone saw the real you? And the gospel says Jesus knows me completely and he loves me the same. He loved me when I was yet a sinner. That's when he died for me. I'm forgiven, accepted when I confess my sin honestly. Like, the gospel's the answer, you guys. And I just thought that was really life-changing perspective to consider that anxiety is stemming from a false need. And if I can identify what I think I need right now, but I don't actually need it, and if I can recognize what the gospel has to say to that, it starts to feel a lot different.
Well said, Noah. I think that's a good transition into kind of, I don't know about rapid fire, but maybe let's talk like practical stuff, like lessons learned. We've shared a little bit about our context. We've shared a little bit about our experiences. Now we're kind of wading into, if you could just pass on some stuff to people as they're weighing through how do I create boundaries for myself in doing work that is really people heavy and just the ministry, man. I can say for myself, when I started the job I'm at now, so I do homeless outreach with youth and teens, and that brings a lot of, just being fully transparent, there's a lot of stuff there's a lot of heavy stuff, I guess, that I have to deal with at work. And one of my supervisors, when I was like in the onboarding process, was just kind of talking to them and trying to set myself up well for like dealing with a lot of the trauma and the, just all the baggage we come across. And the beginning of the serenity prayer is something that I just hold on to throughout work a lot. For those of you that don't know it, it goes, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that's been like, that repeats in my head a lot, and that attitude. Like, honestly, when I go to work and when I get back from work, like praying that the Lord would give me to know the things that I have an obligation to change. Like I have a calling to do this work. And then there are things that are outside of my control, and the Spirit needs to give me and us wisdom to know the difference between those things, and to be open to what we've been saying, accepting when the time comes to say, all right, I actually can't control this and I need to step away. And it's actually going to be more detrimental if I try to control something that I can't, and I try to do something that is like beyond my capability. It's going to hurt me. It's going to hurt my wife. It's going to hurt the people I'm ultimately trying to serve if I get it out of step. And so living in that tension, because there's times like today I left work and I went back to work to do something that needed to get done. But I had the peace about, this is something that I can do and I'm going to do it. But like, I wouldn't go back again, I guess. You know what I mean? Like having, normally I try to get off work and I come home, but recognizing that even sometimes in ministry, I think we have to be open to our boundaries being somewhat pliable. I don't know if we can always say, nope, I'm done. I'm not dealing with that ever. There has to be some wisdom and some gray in these are the things I do to take care of myself, but I'm still open-handed about what, like if the Lord is calling me to do something. But then also there are some rigid things. Like that's where the Sabbath is. Like there are times in our lives that we do say, no, like this vacation, this day, this whatever is my hard stop. So anyways, that's a practical thing that's been really helpful for me, is that specifically the first part of that serenity prayer. And then, no, you've already said it, but learning to Sabbath is like something I'm constantly learning. I was doing good, and I have like dropped off on some of my Sabbath principles or like practices. I was really good about like turning my phone in on Sundays. I'd go like, I wouldn't use my phone at all on Sundays. Like wouldn't watch TV, like just primarily like read and stuff. And summer vacations kind of jacked up my schedule, and it's been really hard for me to get back in the swing of it. But some of the more beneficial practices have been for me getting back to just the basics of like setting a day aside where it's not about doing things. It's just about being me. So what do you guys, I rambled for a while. What do you guys, if you could just pass on, like if you're in the ministry, new to the ministry, or just like in work that is taxing, what are some boundaries that are helpful for people that might be worth them trying out?
I think just some basic phone boundaries.
Yeah.
Those have meant a lot to me. Like, I don't have a text sound. I don't get text vibrations. And I think that was a John Mark Comer thing.
Sounds right.
So like, if I check my phone, that's when I see texts. You know, you might be like, oh my gosh, but what if someone texts me and I don't see it for 5 minutes? Okay.
Think about what you just said.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Or 30 minutes. Okay. Like, I think it really hit me. Like, I'm not as important as I thought I was. You know? And the same with emails. Like, I don't have a work email on my phone. You know, like, work email I will check when I'm on my computer when I'm working. Because often work email has a way of dragging you into a project, you know, and you think, oh, I'll just do this real quick. I'll just send this thing, or I'll find this file for them, or I'll send it them. And I've also found that work email finds its way of getting solved without you if you leave it long enough.
Amen.
You know,
if you
like,
leave it long enough.
I'm not recommending avoidance. I'm not recommending not answering your email. But, like, I've been on vacation before, and you come back, and the things people email you about, the time you open that email, it's over. It already happened.
Yeah.
Or, like, someone else solved it. Or, like, it just, you're not that important. And the other thing that I do is I don't keep my phone in my room at night. And so my phone goes outside of my room at night, and I can't hear it. People can't call me at night. They just can't. I don't know. If Rebecca was in the ER, I guess I'd be upset. But there's like, I would be upset. But there's no other...
She's like, what the heck?
No, sorry. There's no other real situation that, like, I'll find out in the morning. You know? Like, what am I going to do about it in the middle of the night? And I think that sometimes we believe that as pastors, like, it's our job to be available in that moment, you know? And I just don't think that, I think that you can deal with it tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe I'm inexperienced. But I also try, I'm not as good at this one, I also try not to pick up that phone until I've read my Bible. So to, like, read my Bible and then pick up the phone, because I find that if I pick up the phone, I start doing phone stuff, it becomes 20 to 30 minutes before I can set it down again to read my Bible. So I don't know. There's little intentionalities of, like, what we do in the morning first thing. Are you rolling over and opening Instagram? Are you opening work email? Like, are you checking all the texts of people who have been trying to get a hold of you? I think it's important that we set the way that we want to spend our time according to our priorities of time with the Lord and time with family and time serving.
David,
That's awesome.
teach us.
A few things I do is for texting, I try to not text people and not reply to text after 9 p.m. and not until around 8 a.m. So then the evening is for the evening. Another one I've had to self-teach is careful on oversharing, right? Especially with your church. Like, yeah, be open and vulnerable to them, but not everyone has to know everything. There's a time for all things. There's a season for all things, and that doesn't mean that all things need to be shared in all seasons. So knowing appropriate vulnerability would be a helpful tool for a lot of us to work on. And then, I mean, honestly, Sabbath, right? Finding it, to me, I'm not a hard and fast Sabbath has to be on Sunday, right? Or Saturday or whatever, but I am hard and fast.
You're not a first day Adventist?
Yeah. But I am, like, do something not at work one day a week.
Yeah.
Find a time to play. That's right. There's a book I really like called Work, Play, and Love. And we need to create time to play. And that's a huge way to have boundaries, is building in. Like, honestly, a lot of times before I ask someone what they do, I ask them, what do you do for fun? And that's a good way, I think, to keep boundaries, so you're not just defined by your work.
Let's staircase somewhere.
So natural.
You know, staircases don't need to go into a brick wall. We want our staircase to go somewhere. And so, what's a takeaway for you guys on ministry boundaries?
I am unapologetic of these hard pivots today.
These are hard
We
pivots.
are just like, next thing. Yeah. Let's see. I think an important thing to remind myself of into voice is that taking space for yourself and like setting boundaries is a proactive thing, and it's not like setting boundaries for yourself isn't necessarily vegging out and just being like, I don't do anything. It's making time for the right things that you might not necessarily make time for otherwise. Like if you're, for me in my life, if I'm always on, then then I will never create the time to have uninterrupted time with my wife, or to have uninterrupted time with the Lord, or like unhurried time to like do the things in my house that need to get done. Like, so when we talk about saying, putting boundaries up or being unavailable, it's not being unavailable so you can just like veg and watch Netflix. It's like to be unavailable, to be available for the other things. You know what I'm like? It's
Yes.
It's important. It's not just saying I'm not doing anything. It's I'm going to do the things that like the world might not see as valuable, or that might not seem as productive, but they're important for my well-being and my soul. And that's solitude. That might be family time. That's like whatever. So be that what it will. I guess I'm just saying, as you carve out what it means for you to set up boundaries for yourself, don't just like veg, and don't just say, well, I don't do anything. Like, you're creating space for the right things in the face of your working and stuff.
That's good. I think mine is just a reminder that I'm a minister to David and Caitlin first, right? Like, those are my priorities, is my relationship with God and how I can be a good husband to her. And so that's the joy, though. It's like I get to be a minister to myself and a minister to Caitlin. And so seeing those two things as more, or, valuable, just as valuable as my ministry in the church or in the campus, it's a good reminder for me. So, minister to self and Caitlin.
Love it.
Yeah. The best thing I have to offer to the world is my ongoing transformation in Jesus. I need to know Christ, be transformed by him, and then there's going to be a lot more to offer. There's going to be better stuff. They're going to get a better version of Noah serving them, not out of anxieties and wounds, trying to fill it by being needed, but instead out of this good, godly place of loving the way that Jesus loves.
That's awesome.
I don't know how to do it, though.
Guys, this was a great episode, a hard one, but a good one, and I'm proud of all of us for working through this. I think it's an important conversation for anyone who says Jesus is their Lord to say, how can I do this well? So thank you for engaging with this with me, and for those of you guys, if you're listening to this at home, if this was meaningful for you, email us. We'd love to email you a ChatGPT generated response.
We would really love to. ChatGPT is free, you guys. We need to get more use out of it.
Dude, get on the boat. It's coming.
Our Google account has 0 out of 15 gigabytes used. Help us fill up our inbox.
15 by 2050.
And
that's our goal.
How many? Where can people contact us?
They can email us at staircasepod@gmail.com. That email's in the show notes. You can just click it and send it. Or if you're listening on the premier podcast streaming app, sorry about that, Google Podcast, you can reply directly to the episode and just drop us a note.
Let us know what boundaries are hardest for you.
Yeah.
In what circumstances do you struggle to make space? We want to know.
Yeah, we want to know. Let us know. And then, or don't text us because you're not going to use your phone after you're done with this episode. And do it tomorrow.
Put your phone to bed.
Yeah, put it to bed and then go take a walk and love your spouse. Or if you don't have a spouse yet, then just go find one and get married.
Oh, you'll have so much more time to go find one if you're not on the phone.
Yeah, when you're not on your... That's... I'm sorry.
Or if you don't need a spouse, too.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Oh, my goodness.
Do your thing.
Do your thing, girl.
If you want a spouse, get off your phone and go find one. Is that our...
And if you don't want a spouse, you can also get off your phone and do other things.
And just pray. Just go talk to God.
I think this has gone off the rails.
We were doing really well for a second. And we're not editing any of this. All right.
Oh, no.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Send us an email.
Embodied community.